When you start with the story idea, what do you start with? Do you start like with the absolute last sentence, like, oh, what's the name of John Irving? I think writes the last sentence of the book and then writes the rest of the book to get to that sentence. How much information do you have when you start?
When I'm teaching writing classes, I always liken it to a Reese's peanut butter cup. What kicks off a book for me, and the peanut butter of it all is the premise, and I describe it as that what if question. What if? But the chocolate, which is very necessary to make the Reese's peanut butter cup, is the character. So it usually is a collision of a premise that I've been thinking about, or some idea I've been thinking about. In the case of We Are Inevitable, like, what if your way of life was sort of destroyed, and, do you give up or do you move on? Like, what happens? And then the chocolate of it all is when the character comes to kind of drive that particular idea. So those two things are usually to start. I generally know how a book is going to begin, and I know what the ending is going to be, more or less, but not the specifics of it, and definitely not the John Irving, which to me feels like cheating. Not that he's cheating, but for me, writing to the end is like the carrot that I'm chasing. If I've already written the end, like, what is drawing me forward? So, for instance, with If I Stay, I knew how it began, and I knew that the book would end with Mia making a choice of whether to live or die, but I didn't know what her choice was going to be until about halfway through. With Frankie and Bug, I knew that the book was going to end with, Frankie going home for the summer. But so much of what happened in between him arriving and him leaving changed during the drafting of the book. So, even when you think you know these things, characters have a way of having their own ideas about things, and you sit down and you start to write. And a dangerous thing for me is when I try and jam my characters into a sort of a preconceived idea of where they should go. That's why I don't outline, because I find that when I do that, I have these ideas and my characters really want to go somewhere else, but I'm like, nope, you're going there. It's already been decided. And then the book kind of stalls and doesn't work. It sort of becomes sort of stuck because I'm not listening to where the characters are telling me they want to go.
So how much do you, if you don't have a formal outline, do you have what I call like a grocery list where I need to pick up some of these things somewhere in here? Or do you just go and let the characters make their decisions and follow them?
I go and let the characters make the decisions. When I'm drafting now, I use Scrivener, even though I kind of hate Scrivener. But I find it's got way too many bells and whistles, and it just confuses me. And then the simple things that I need to use are very complicated. But it's incredibly helpful for drafting because it does allow to see you pacing-wise, like where your scenes are falling. And if you have 3 scenes or 3 chapters with the same character in the same place, it's like, wait a second. So that does help me. But I wish, I would have a sort of a grocery list, but I don't, and I'll often write. And for me, you're getting to know the characters as you're writing them. It's like getting to know a person. And so, you'll be on like page 200 and you'll realize, oh, there's that, and that completely ties in with something in page 90 and page 42. And so then I go back. So I really do jump around a lot when I draft. I know a lot of writers are really, really good about being disciplined and going from start to finish when they're drafting, but I'm sort of jumping back and forth. And in fact, part of my practice when I'm drafting is that I'll always rewind and go back over the previous days, last 500 or 1,000 words, just because it helps me to make sure that I'm honest, that it feels good and it feels right, and B, it gives you sort of a head start to sort of catapult you from the blank page into the new sections.